is up, when you're up is down, but love stays around. And when you know
Don't you love this music? I don't know if you realize that this man wrote these beautiful songs. Joe Jefferson, it's just so good to have you here. And we have John Walsh, who's the principal of one of the schools whose students' lives you have touched through your foundation, the Play For Me Foundation. It's so good to have you here, John.
It's great to be here.
King's Christian School, by the way, in Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Yes. It's great to be here to support Joe, Sam, and Dr. Greif for just the wonderful blessings they've given to our school. The fact that they showed up at our school one day, actually when Sam came into our school, unannounced, came into our front office. I happened to be in the hallways, and he was talking to my assistant, and she was trying to get in touch with me, and then Sam left, and I came back and said, this fella came in, and he's like, wanting to give us musical instruments. I said, what's the catch? You know? So anyhow, we got in touch with Sam. We gave him a phone call, and Joe and Sam came back the next day, and we had a wonderful meeting in my office, and we talked. And these gentlemen are just warm, giving, such humble gentlemen. And we just are honored to be affiliated with them, and like I said, we feel blessed just to be associated with Dr. Greif and Joe and Sam and the Play For Me Foundation. It's such a wonderful blessing to us.
How does that make you feel to hear a principal say?
It really does. You know, it's very fulfilling to, it's worth its weight in gold. I mean, that's it right there. I don't need anything else. Just to know that the people involved, like the principal here and the kids, you know, if their hearts are full, then our pockets are full. That's all we need. You know what I mean? And that just gives us the incentive to go out, you know, and hit the pavement, you know, and weave and, you know, do our thing and look for more donations, because these children can't suffer. We don't want these kids to suffer. You know?
And John, to realize that, you know, when you met Joe, to realize he's a music legend.
I was just thinking that same thought.
You know, think of that.
He was sitting in my office going, wow, this guy wrote hits for this group and that group and the other group.
It was really funny.
He's in my office.
And he started telling me what I was. He said, I know all your songs.
Yeah, it's true. I grew up in that
writing
age.
them all.
Yes,
It's amazing,
yes, we danced to those tunes and everything. It was just, here he is sitting across in my office. And I'm thinking, here's Joe Jefferson. Wow, who'd ever thought? And Joe mentioned the assembly. We actually had an assembly program where the three guys came and they presented the instruments. And it was just to see the expression. He invited the whole school. Parents came, and to see the expression on the youngsters' faces as they opened the boxes. He described it as like opening Christmas presents. Their eyes were just bugging out of their head. It was just wonderful.
Yeah, it was.
But what was even more fascinating is to watch when the assembly was done and kids were filtering out. Nobody really left, but Joe and Dr. Greif, Sam, they were up there talking with the kids, and they were jamming with the kids on the instruments. It was fun, so much fun to watch, and the kids were like wide-eyed as Joe was talking about the drums, and Dr. Greif was on the drums. It was just amazing. And you were helping the young man Austin with the trumpet. It was amazing.
And so do you feel like this will, in other words, it's not just about the music, which is in and of itself wonderful, but that these students now will have one more reason to try a little harder in school, to be successful, to feel empowered?
Well, it's also a wonderful life's lesson to say that there's people out there that have a passion for music, that have walked the path before them. Because some of our kids are really into the music. And again, I was finding some humor in when you were explaining about Palmyra, how the instruments were falling apart and they were taped. We had the same situation. So they came in and the kids are opening these boxes and going, holy mackerel, this is a brand new trumpet, a brand new clarinet, a brand new trombone.
And they'll never forget that.
They'll never forget that, no. And they saw in action what we teach at our school. People will give, and people will give with no strings attached, and people will give because it's what they love and they have that passion deep in their heart. So he's spreading the message of music, which...
Remember in that first meeting, the second meeting that we had, Miss Digman was there?
Yes,
and we started talking, she's the band director, and we were talking about, instruments being tape. She says, well, I just finished taping up a couple of my clarinets, so we could use some help. And I said, well, this help is on the way, dear.
It was a marvelous, it's one of the, and I've been in, this is my 41st year in education. It's one of the most wonderful things I witnessed, that assembly.
Wow.
And to see these three men, and this gentleman has been a huge success, but to see him come to our small little school and just show up and have a ball with the kids is just a testimony to this man's character and his sense of humility that he has, that he can get down with the kids and have a ball.
And do the kids know Joe's music? I mean, that's what you said, they were jamming, but did they realize who he is and what he has created?
That was explained to them.
Okay.
Some are a little too young to know the Spinners, but I'll tell you what, a lot of the faculty, a lot of the parents do, and I could see them talking to the kids. You don't know this guy? Yes, he wrote these songs, And then they were catching on real fast. That this was a major celebrity in our midst.
I think of Quincy Jones recently at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony. We talked about this before the show a little bit, and he talked about that in the world, Europe and so on, they celebrate our musical roots, our gospel roots, our R&B, our jazz, and yet in America, it's a history that we don't teach kids enough.
Yeah, we don't. Isn't that weird?
It's weird.
It is weird, yeah.
Now, would that be part of the Play For Me Foundation? I mean, is that something like education or?
Yeah, the education is going to be all part of it, because kids have to know, you find kids that want to venture into music, from high school or even from grade school, and they get into high school, they want to be musicians, they want to be artists or whatever. You have to know about your history. I mean, it's just not enough to teach history in schools, history of the world. You have to teach the kids have to know the history of the art, and who came before. You want to be a great trumpet player, then you got to know who the great trumpet players were before you.
Yeah, just like sports or anything else.
Sports or anything else, you got to know. Become a student of the art itself, and I think Play For Me wants to do that, especially because Bob is big on that. Dr. Greif, he's big on that. He's big on trying to tell them, who was what and how they were, and how these people got to be big, And I think kids need to know that, because then they can really relate, Yeah. This is what I want to do, and if I want to do it, I want to do it like this person, and they need to know that. They need to. And
maybe some future songwriters like
maybe they want to be like me. Huh?
That's right, like Joe Jefferson. We'll be right back here on The Dawn Show. What an inspiring half an hour here on The Dawn Show with the legendary Joe Jefferson, and of course John Walsh, our school principal, who's been touched by Joe's foundation, Play For Me. If people want to donate, want to help out with musical instruments, it's josephjefferson@me.com.
Correct.
josephjefferson@me.com. Get involved. The kids' lives that Joe and of course Sam are just, it's amazing the lives that you're changing. I thank you for sharing your story, and we want to continue following up with you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love that voice. Have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m.
It's a cloud of love.